Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenik, and welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American DraftKings.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to break down the entire UFC 275 fight card. We're going to give you our picks, our bets, and our fantasy plays. And if you want $50 free, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. They all offer their own promos, their own matches, their own free bonuses. And then on top of it, we send you another 50 however you want it. We're coming off a good week, Jacob. But what was scary about last week, and this is gonna be a theme tonight, only 2 underdogs out of 14 fights. And this card really was ripe with underdogs.
It really, and first of all, if you guys, there's probably going to be a ton of new viewers this week. We want to thank you for joining. Like the video, subscribe if you're new. We bring a ton of content every single week. We do betting videos, monkey knife fight, all sorts of stuff. We go live on Saturdays before the fight. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, last week was literally, it could have been 0 underdogs because, Carolina was like, it was basically a pick'em fight. And then Almeida he was losing that fight and then found the knockout. So it could have literally been 0 underdogs. And as you mentioned, this card is riddled with some live dogs. So it's let's get into it, and it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, opening up UFC 275, we have Jocelyn Edwards taking on Ramona Pascal. Jocelyn Edwards is 10-4 overall, 2-3 in her last 5, and she's coming off losses to Carol Rosa and Jessica Rose Clark. Ramona Pascal is 6-3 overall, 4-1 in her last 5, and she's coming off a short notice loss in her UFC debut. Jocelyn Edwards is a good kickboxer who uses range really well. She has a nice variety of strikes, but she does prefer to kick. If you can get inside and make it a dirty fight, you can break Edwards, but getting inside that range is not the easiest thing to do. She has an okay strike differential of a 3.5 to 3, but her biggest hole is her grappling. She has only a 16% takedown offense and a 47% takedown defense. Ramona Pascal is coming back after a short notice fight against Josiane Nunes, where she was getting smoked in that first round. She got beat up early, but she was able to work in some well-timed takedowns, work in some very serious control, and steal some rounds there. She is big for the weight class. And when I say weight class, it's really weight classes because she's fought anywhere from 135 all the way up to 150. She may use that size to try to bully Jocelyn here, and really try to push her way through, given how that last fight went. Style-wise, though, she is a Muay Thai striker, and she has a traditional Muay Thai guard and those traditional techniques. Earlier in her career, she struggled with takedowns and grappling, but not only does she seem to have plugged those holes, that seems to be her path to victory in some cases. Right now, Ramona is a plus 145 underdog. And right out of the gate, I actually like her as an underdog in this spot. I know how bad that first round, that last fight looked. I get it. But she was able to survive, and Josiane Nunes has very real power. She got 3 takedowns in that fight. She had almost 4 full minutes of control time. And Jocelyn, I don't think, has anywhere near the same power that Josiane does. I think Ramona can have some of that same success. She might even be able to have success on her feet because she is a Muay Thai striker by trade, but maybe not so much. I like Ramona to strike, pressure forward, use. She will have a size advantage. Jocelyn's going to be taller, but Ramona's thicker, bigger, just more built out. I think she'll use that size advantage, bully a little bit, and I think Ramona gets it done. And very quick, this was listed, I don't know if it was just a Tapology error or if something changed. This was listed at 135 pounds last week, and now it's featherweight 145. So I don't know if something happened or it was literally just an error on the Tapology website. If anybody in the comment section knows, let us know. Jacob, you and I spoke before this. You completely disagree with this pick.
I don't necessarily disagree with it completely. I understand your logic for, picking Ramona. And that's what guys got to understand. If you guys are new watching this, our breakdowns and our analysis is usually right pretty like 95% of the time. Usually, sometimes you can get picked wrong. Your analysis can be right and you can get a pick wrong. But I agree with your analysis in this fight. I think her path to victory is probably in the wrestling, in the grappling, because if you watch that Nunes fight, you mentioned, I think you said she stole some rounds or stole a round or whatever. It was 30-27, 30-27, 30-26. And actually the second round was a 10-8 round for Nunes on a judge's scorecard. She was getting beat up in that fight against a girl that is undersized for what it was a 145 fight. And that's Nunes, who is really undersized for 135, really probably undersized for 125. If she wanted to make 115, she's probably good. She's about 4'10". She does possess power, but Jocelyn also has power, but has real featherweight 145 power. Jocelyn, being a favorite of whatever she is, minus 145, minus 170, whatever it is crazy, right? Because she is not that talented. No offense to Jocelyn. We've seen the issues of her being taken down and controlled, and the path for Ramona is there to be able to take her down and control her. But if you watch that Nunes fight, to get to Nunes, to get her to the ground, there was a lot of that Ben Askren just kind of reaching out and trying to grab Nunes. And against a shorter fighter, it kind of worked, right? Because Nunes wants to close that distance to strike. So she was right there in front of her, and she was able to get those takedowns by kind of grabbing her. She wants to get in that clinch. She wants to get in close. Jocelyn is long. She knows how to use that length with her power, connect on the end of punches. So I understand. Ramona is an underdog. She probably is a pretty live underdog. If people want to play her, I get it. My pick is going to be Jocelyn. I think that's a little bit of a safer play because Ramona was getting dropped by Nunes. Jocelyn has real 145 power. That's really her only path, is to hope to land the big power shots, because if Ramona gets close to her and she lets her get close to her, that's Ramona's path to victory. So, I'm picking against you, but your breakdown, I think, is 100% right.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Right out of the gate, we're not even fighting. Well, so we're sort of aligned in the logic. We achieved different picks in the end. Listen, plus 145, I actually don't like those odds enough to throw money on her, because honestly, neither one of these women are going to be vying for a title anytime soon. Both of them are just looking for a win in the UFC so they don't get cut. I think the only bet here is, if there is a bet, is probably a plus 3.5 on Ramona Pascal. I don't know what those odds will be, but what that bet means is you're buying 3.5 points on the judges' scorecard. So that math works out to one single round. And if Ramona Pascal wins one round on her own, I then bought one more round and the bet hits. So you're only going to get that bet if you go to weonpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. Bet Online is the one partner that offers that bet. I place that bet a lot when I have close fights with a durable underdog. Ramona Pascal has proven she is a durable underdog. So I know she's not going to get stopped, or I'm pretty sure she's not going to get stopped. And I just need her to win one round, and she should be able to win a round against Jocelyn Edwards, who doesn't have much to offer on the ground. So I might place that bet. I'll have to see what the odds are. Obviously,
I got 'em right here
plus,
for you.
What are they? Not great.
The odds makers are they're on you, Angelo, because it's minus 160 for plus 3.5.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to spend minus 160 there, but okay. Well, it's a good bet, and if you like it for this fight or any other fight, go to
No, I actually love it. Even at minus 160, I think I love that, because she did prove how tough she is. She was getting cracked by Nunes, who puts people away, and showed how tough she is. So I actually don't even mind it at minus 160.
Well, the only way you lose that bet is if she gets absolutely dominated and loses a 30-27 or gets stopped. If she wins a round, wins the fight on her own, gets a stoppage, you get paid. So I like that bet when there's good size underdogs that I know are durable. So in this case, Ramona Pascal is one of them. DraftKings, listen, I don't mind her at $7,500 because I do think she wins. With that being said, there are a lot of live underdogs on this card. So when you're building your DraftKings lineup, I would start with your positive that person is going to win guarantees, because you're going to have a lot of options as far as more affordable fighters to fill it out. What do you think?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. This is a DraftKings, even though usually you have a lot of variety when it's like those 14 fight cards. This is only 12, but there's going to be a lot of different lineups, because these fights are wild, guys. These are wild fights.
They are. And then we got the Monkey Knife Fight strike line. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, it is daily fantasy. All you need to do is pick the more or less on this line here. That is how many strikes they're predicting each fighter will land. And if you're right, you can triple your money. Check that out at wewantpicks.com/MKF. I think it's a more. I just think it goes 3 rounds. I think it's sloppy. I think there's a lot of touching up. I think it's probably more. Maybe less for Jocelyn. Maybe more for Ramona, less for Jocelyn. Because Jocelyn, I'm expecting her to be on her back quite a bit. But Ramona does get hit. She's just durable.
Yeah, but even as a striker, I even have in my notes, I didn't mention before, but Jocelyn I have is low volume. A lot of times she's low volume, no real sense of urgency. That's what kind of worries me in picking her. So I actually think it's a less on her, and Ramona could definitely be a more. So I actually think these should be flip-flopped, and then I would like them, be a little bit different, but yeah.
All right, and just final word to the live chat here. Your comments about Jocelyn's appearance are savage. Those were savage comments. So
about
clean
Jocelyn
it up.
or Ramona? What about Ramona's appearance? Because
No, they were. They said some savage things. Okay. All right. Next up at UFC 275.
Speaking of appearances,
we have Liang Na taking on Silvana Gomez Juarez. Silvana Gomez Juarez is 10-4 overall, 3-2 in her last 5. She's coming off 2 losses in a row, and she is looking for her first UFC win. Liang Na is 4-1 in her last 5, coming off a loss in her UFC debut. Silvana Gomez Juarez is 0-2 in the UFC. She's coming off 2 grappling losses. She's a striker, but she likes to use her reach and keep people on the outside of her strikes. She has genuine power in her hands, and she throws very heavy leg kicks as well. She's coming off a submission loss to Vanessa Demopoulos, but she was not taken down. Juarez absolutely blasted Demopoulos in the face. Demopoulos went down like a bag of dirt, and then Juarez followed her to the ground. And that was a fatal mistake because she ended up playing the jiu-jitsu game and then got submitted. But she possesses very, very real power in her hands, but has nothing to offer on the ground. Liang Na is only 25 years old, and she already has 24 fights. But if you look a little closer, you will see that it is a pretty padded record for the most part. Any of the real names were losses. Style-wise, she is a relentless wrestler with takedowns, and she has pretty much zero game plan outside of that. She's just working for takedowns, and then once she gets there, she's just trying to keep it there, right? It's not plodding from position to position, looking for submissions or anything like that. She is a threat to dominate with wrestling, but regardless of what her record says, because she does have a lot of finishes, she isn't necessarily a threat for a submission or a ground and pound TKO. And this is, listen, back to back. This is another hard fight to pick. The odds, Juarez here, minus 150 now. She was minus 160 just a few days ago. So there is some money coming in on Liang Na, but I am surprised that Juarez is still a good-sized favorite because styles make fights. And we all know that Juarez cannot defend a takedown. Lupita Godinez took her down 5 times in 4 minutes. That fight didn't get out of the first round, and she was still taken down 5 times. Obviously, that says she's got a good get-up game, but she cannot defend these takedowns. I can only imagine what Liang's going to do with her aggressive takedowns. On the other hand, we did just watch Liang get 3 takedowns against Carnelozzi, but then lost the scramble and just got pounded out. So my gut is saying Juarez because watch that Vanessa Demopoulos fight. Damn, is she dangerous. And my gut is going there, but my brain is saying she cannot defend a takedown. Liang Na is just a takedown machine. I got to go with the takedowns. When there's that big of a hole, because let's not forget, when Liang Na fought Carnelozzi, she dropped her with a punch as well. So Liang Na has some power in her hands, has wrestling, where Silvana Gomez is just all striking, nothing to offer on the mat. I got to go with Liang Na, but it just, this card scares the hell out of me. This pick scares the hell out of me, but I just got to go with it. There's a lot of variables. I'm not betting on this fight, but got to go with the grappler over the striker. What do you think? White teeth.
That is my girl, Liang Na. If you guys don't know, I know the lock of the week's kind of been a big thing. We've been tracking it, actually tracking it for the last 20 weeks or so like that. But it's been going on for over a year. And that fight versus Ariane Carnelozzi, she was my lock of the week. And she was almost coming off one of the worst the worst lock of the week of all time. And what's his name? I can't remember what his name is anymore. Liang Na was almost the greatest lock of the week of all time. The very first punch she threw, she dropped Ariana Carnelossi, jumped all over, and then absolutely blew her load trying to get a finish. She ended up getting beat up at the end of the round. She was so tired at the end of the first round that Song Yudong, who was not even supposed to be in her corner was having visa issues, so Song Yudong was in her corner, literally had to run to the middle of the octagon and pick her up and carry her to her corner before the ref stopped the fight, because the ref was standing over her like, you gotta get up, you can't just lay there. So that worries me a little bit. My pick is Liang Na in this fight, but I have a little bit of PTSD from last week because I picked another very good grappler, very good wrestler who got knocked out. Obviously, he got knocked out in a very fluke, weird way, and Tony Gravely is not this power puncher, but he obviously does possess power because that was a 1-inch punch that knocked out what's-his-name. Liang Na should win this fight, but we need to be careful. She actually might be my lock of the week again. I haven't decided my lock of the week, but I'm going to pick her. She's an underdog, so she's a candidate for lock of the week. But Juarez, man, is so powerful. She might be one of the most powerful 115 fighters literally on the roster. The way that she throws that 1-2 and the 2 straight down the pipe, the way she connects on the very end of those punches. You saw that with Vanessa Demopoulos. And Liang Na, she will strike a little bit. She's not an awful striker, but she will strike a little bit. And it only takes, Juarez is one of those people, it only takes one shot, as we saw with Demopoulos. So I'm going to pick Liang Na. I think it's very, very dangerous because I don't know, maybe she hasn't fixed her cardio, maybe that was just an adrenaline dump. UFC
it was her
debut.
first fight in the
year. Yeah. UFC debut, first round, she drops her. She's trying to chase the finish. She nearly got the finish. You know, it still worries me a little bit. The cardio might not be there, but this should be an obviously ain't now play, honestly. But the power's there with Juarez. It's been, back-to-back armbar losses. I know a lot of people were saying that. I'm saying a lot of people are on Liang Na. I'm on Liang Na. I'd be a little bit careful.
Yeah, this one scares me. This one does scare me. I've got a lot of underdogs here on this card. This one is one of the ones that scare me. So listen, you don't need to bet every fight. You don't need to be a full-blown degenerate. You just don't. So just watch. And I
put a unit on it on Liang Na. I don't know if I said that or not. I put one unit.
Did you really?
It should be, but yeah.
Oh man, I'm more confident Ramona Pascal than Liang Na.
Nah.
Okay. Nah. Well, how clever, Jacob. What a joke.
Well, personal tax.
Anyway,
I wouldn't go in there, but referee.
DraftKings, $7,600. Again, depending on what my lineup looks like, because I'm not no spoilers for the rest of the picks, but a lot of underdogs in this card. So depending on what my lineup looks like, I may not need a ton of underdogs, but $7,600. If she wins, there's going to be a lot of takedowns, a lot of control time, and she's going to rack up some very real points. So $7,600 probably worth you putting a unit on her in real life, but you're not going to throw in your DraftKings lineup for $7,600.
It's like a she might find it, but when you say a lot of takedowns, it probably is just going to be one takedown. If she can get the takedown, she could probably get the finish. So you're just kind of chasing
then
a
she's
finish.
Definitely worth the money.
Right. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying when you say a lot of takedowns, I don't think it's going to be a lot of takedowns. I think, but she could get knocked out. So it's a little bit of a flyer, but I'm not disagreeing with you. So relax.
Yeah, I think she's probably worth it in DraftKings, but it's a weird week. There's only 12 fights and there's a lot of live underdogs. Monkey Knife Fight, 46 strikes to 59 strikes. If you don't know what that is, it's daily fantasy. You just pick the number of strikes, and if you're right, you can triple your money. Man, that's an interesting one because 60 strikes from Silvana, that's a lot of hitting, and she hits like a truck. Liang Na can get to 46. She gets the takedown. She's hanging out on top. It's tricky. What do you think of that Monkey Knife Fight strike line?
This feels like it's going to be over quick, bang, bang, either a big punch or an immediate takedown and submission, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Neither one of these women have gone to the distance in their UFC careers, but it's probably a less play for Monkey Knife Fight. Check that out at weonpicks.com/MKF. And if you want $50 free, go to weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. weonpicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC 275, we have Kyung Ho Kang taking on Bagarai Dana. Kyung Ho Kang is 17-9 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off a loss to Ronnie Yaya, but that was after a 2-year layoff. Bagarai Dana is 12-3 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off a knockout loss just 6 weeks ago. So not very long ago was he put out. Kyung-Ho Kang's a well-rounded fighter who uses his range to keep you at distance when he wants, and then he works his range really well to set up takedowns and go from there. He averages about 2.5 takedowns per fight, and he has solid accuracy at 59%. He is primarily a grappler with top-heavy pressure and solid submissions. I mentioned he's coming back after that loss to Rani Yahya. He did not look great in that loss. He looked much older, much worn out than he actually is. But keep in mind, that was after a 2-year layoff. I'm assuming he worked out some of those cobwebs, and he'll look like he did just a few years ago. Bagarai Dana is a very good striker who comes forward with volume, speed, and power. His speed is his biggest asset. If you look at his striking differential, he lands about 2-1. So he's hitting you with 2 strikes, and you're only hitting him with 1. He couples that speed with his power, and he's a legit threat on his feet. His takedown defense is just okay at 57%, but he does scramble really well to create openings and get back up. This is another interesting fight. 2 talented guys with very different paths to victory. Dana has legit power and great speed, but honestly, he's first round or bust, at least in my opinion. Jacob and I argued about that, and we will again. I think he can be first round or bust. Kang has technical striking and solid grappling, but he can struggle if you pressure him. And I'm having a really hard time with this pick because I want to go Kang because of the grappling. But his last performance does worry me. He did not look very good in that fight. And Dana actually showcased some of his own grappling in his last fight. So this one makes me really nervous, and I don't want to just only pick underdogs, but I think Kang can get it done. He's a durable guy. Even in that Yahya fight, he looked terrible, but he's a durable guy. I think Dana gets frustrated, doesn't get the finish in the first round, and starts to really slow down and lose some of that speed. And I think Kang can take over. Not to mention, Dana might be coming back a little too soon. I mean, he was just knocked out 6 weeks ago. That's not very long ago. He might be coming back just a little too soon, even though I don't think Kang is live for a knockout. But I think Kang might be able to grind out a win here. What do you think, Jakey boy?
I think this is a pretty good matchup for Dana. I don't disagree with what you're saying about Kang. He is a durable guy. He doesn't really have the power. I think his last TKO KO was in 2011. Obviously, he had a little bit of layoff there, so that changes things a little bit. I mean, Rani Yahya was basically standing in front of him as a heavy bag, and he couldn't put away Yahya. I think he dropped him once, or like halfway dropped him once. So he does have somewhat of a little bit of power, but not like lights out Dana type of power. And you mentioned the first round or bust. I don't disagree with that completely. But he is putting people away in the first round. That's why he's winning first round fights. He does have 3-round decision wins. He does have 3-round decision losses. He has second round finishes. In that last fight versus Chris Gutierrez, he looked fine in the second round. And Chris Gutierrez was a guy that was giving him issues because of the footwork. That guy was all over the place, right, left, and Dana could not cut off the cage. He was just chasing him and chasing him and chasing him and throwing those power shots. And that actually is why he got knocked out, because he was chasing him a little bit too hard. Chris Gutierrez got a little bit ahead of him, and instead of cutting him off, he was chasing him, and Chris Gutierrez came with a spinning back fist. It was a knockout, but it was one of those like flash. He wasn't flatlined on his back. He got knocked down, got right back to his feet. And actually, right when they stopped it, he was back up, bouncing around like, damn it. I mean, it wasn't a bad stoppage. He was knocked out, but it wasn't like a unconscious. It was one of those little flashbang type situations. We'll see. Maybe it does affect his chin, but if you're going against somebody to test your chin, it's probably Kang that you want to fight, because he's not going to really test your chin too much. Kang isn't going to have the same footwork as Chris Gutierrez, and when you're standing in front of Dana, which we saw Kang do against Rani Yahya. I mean, Rani Yahya was lighting him up at times. I mean, not like the whole fight, but he won that decision. A lot of it was with some takedowns, obviously with the grappling, but there were some striking exchanges where he was just standing in front of Rani Yahya. And if you do that same thing versus Dana, you're going to get knocked out. So when I look at these guys, I see Dana with the power. I don't see the same footwork in Kang that I saw with Chris Gutierrez. So I got to go with Dana and that power. And as you mentioned too, there was at one point Chris Gutierrez, he got in a body lock situation. He literally just picked him up and just slammed him to the ground. The guy is so strong, so powerful. I didn't really see any cardio issues as it went to the second round. He was still trying to chase down Chris Gutierrez. So I got to go with Dana with this. I don't disagree with your analysis again, but I'm going with Dana and the power.
Yeah, I mean, it's another underdog pick with logic. These are fist fights. Anything can happen. And this one does worry me because we have two fighters. I think Kang has the more logical, easier path to victory, quite frankly. I think it's easier for Kang to get takedowns and grind out Dana than it is for Dana to stop Kang. With that being said, Dana's the far more dangerous fighter. And it's always scary picking against somebody that dangerous. So I think it's a nail biter of a first round. And then after that, Dana drops off steep. So I think Kang can survive, make it happen. I was hoping this would be a 1.5 round line, but it's not. It's 2.5. So I'm not even
going to take the over on that.
If it was 1.5, I'd take the over. I'm
looking at the under 2.5, because obviously we're looking at the fight differently because from different sides. But I'm looking at the under 2.5 at -105 and thinking, here we go. That's interesting.
Well, and honestly, I don't think this fight is a war. I think whoever wins this fight looks like a massive favorite. Bagarai is going to knock Kang out and look like he should have been a -500 favorite, or Kang's just going to take him down and do whatever he wants with him.
And just wear it down, yeah.
Dana's going to look useless.
It's probably and there's a few fights like this, probably the more boring the fight is, the more it favors Kang. But if there's those firefights, it's not going to be good.
No, exactly. It's definitely tricky. DraftKings, it's almost a pick 'em in DraftKings. We're talking $400 difference. That's not that big of a deal in DraftKings. So just pick your side. And honestly, Bagarai is probably one of the most valuable. I don't necessarily think he wins. $8,300. That's like the Tony Gravely line from last week. I mean, $8,300 for a guy that puts up the numbers that he does in a win. You can't necessarily go wrong with that. What do you think of that?
No, 100% agree. I don't disagree with the Kong side, but Dana at $8,300, he's gonna be in my lineup. Yeah, I'll chase that first round finish for that value too. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, on the Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line, if you want to check that out, weonpicks.com/MKF. You can triple your money if you nail the strike line. If you like Kang to win, it's more. If you like Bagarai, it's less. It's that simple. I don't think there's anything more complicated than that. And if you want 50 free bucks, go to weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you 50 bucks. That's weonpicks.com/bets. And Luis Rodriguez, my man, pots
more rent
and
money,
pans,
baby.
says
more rent money.
Some Almeida win money to share, rent money for Jacob. Well, there you go, Jacob. Considering your rat-infested apartment, that bought you a week.
We only need $9,998 left.
There you go.
To pay this month's rent, guys. So let's get donating. Let's become members. Let's subscribe. Let's hit the like button. Hit the like button so I can pay my rent, please. Jesus.
Well, thank you very much, Luis Rodriguez. I roll my R's really well, by the way.
Yeah.
Next up at
tongue.
UFC 2. Next up at UFC 275, we have Jake Matthews taking on Andre Fiallo. Andre Fiallo is 16-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off 2 first-round KOs in a row. Jake Matthews is 17-5 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a submission loss to Sean Brady a year ago. Jake Matthews, he is coming back after that year layoff. He's a well-rounded guy with solid wrestling, very good grappling, and a nice striking variety. He works angles well and has no problem mixing up body shots and headshots. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, but the dig on him is his fight IQ and his willingness to trade punches when he should wrestle or grapple when he should strike. Andre Fiallo, I mentioned this before, he's becoming the post-COVID Khamzat because of how quick he's turning around for these fights and how willing he is to fight anybody. He is a striker. He's got a really nice double jab, heavy leg kicks, and solid takedowns when he needs them. He has legit power in his hands, which he showcased in his last 2 fights with first-round knockouts over Miguel Baeza and Cameron Van Camp. He'll mix up inside and outside leg kicks really well, and he uses those often. His issue, though, is his defense needs work. He's very hittable against Michel Pereira. We saw that in his UFC debut, and if you go back to PFL, he was blasted and dropped quite a bit there. And it's an interesting fight because I am not as high on Fiallo as most people are. I think he's, obviously I mentioned how hittable he is. I think he's a bit overrated, and how hittable he is going to catch up to him. Michel Pereira more than doubled his strikes. Cameron Van Camp, who was knocked out pretty early, landed more strikes than Fiallo did in that loss. And if you watch PFL fights against Chris Curtis, Chris Curtis lit this dude up, just lit him up and did whatever he wanted
Action
to.
man. The action man, Chris Curtis. That's my dude. Chris Curtis, if you're out there, big fan.
He does watch the channel, and he gives me a hard time every time I break him down in his fights. But anyway, Chris Curtis lit up Fiallo, and I wanted to pick against him here because I cannot wait to cash on an underdog against Fiallo. We're going to get some stupid line on him, and I can't wait to play the other side. I just don't think this is the fight for that because stylistically, though, Jake, if he sticks to a wrestling game plan, he can do it. We've seen Fiallo taken down in other fights. He can do it. I don't trust his fight IQ. I mentioned earlier, he strikes when he should grapple. He grapples when he should strike, and he may end up striking here, and that's not something he should do. I'll check out the weigh-ins. Maybe I flip, but right now I am going to stick with Fiallo, but I'll tell you, I don't think he's a parlay piece. He's overrated, and this is a much tougher fight. These odds aren't as wide as I thought they would be, but this is a tougher fight than a lot of people think. So I don't think he's a parlay piece, but I do think Andre Fiallo wins. What do you think of Jackie Boy?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised too. I figured that the next fight that he was going to be added to a card after those big knockouts, he was going to be at least a 2-1 favorite. So I mean, these odds seem kind of crazy to me a little bit as well. I think they're actually right, but I thought that it would be a little bit wider is how I should say it. I put a bet on this fight. It's minus 155 for does not go the distance. So I'm covered either way. I agree. I think Fiallo is a little bit overrated. He gets hit. And unfortunately for everyone he fights, Fiallo's best advantage is the best thing that he has going for him is the fact that he gets hit because people start overextending, and that's where his counters come in. And if you watch these guys fight and you watch the last Fiallo fights, he catches people with these left hooks. They overextend. They're hitting the guy. It's not like they think they're hitting the guy. They're hitting the guy. I mean, Cameron Van Camp made him do the chicken dance in that fight. He was running away from Cameron Van Camp. Cameron Van Camp got a little overconfident, just like Miguel Baeza got a little overconfident, overextended, and those left hooks are there. Boom, right on the button. Counters perfectly. He waits for you to make a mistake. He doesn't mind taking shots. He waits. He gets the timing. The second you overextend, that left hand is there. And if you watch Jake Matthews fight, I watched a couple of his fights, what he needs to do in this fight, and it's hard to change what you do. He's not going to do it. But if you watch Colby Covington fight, when he fights, his right hand is glued to his chin. He fights like this. It is right here at all times. If you watch Jake Matthews fight, when he's fighting, his left hand, it's not on his hip. He doesn't fight hands low, but that right hand is low. And when he overextends, he does not bring that right hand up. And what's on right there? It's going to be Fiallo's left hook once again. That's what worries me. I think Jake Matthews, he's not, I don't want to say he's like super live, but I agree. He has an opportunity in this fight to use his grappling, even in the striking. If he can use good footwork in and out, not stay in the pocket, he can even win the striking exchanges, right? Because Fiallo does get hit. You mentioned the Michel Pereira fight. Outstriked 112-48 against Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira is in and out, bouncing. He's hard to hit. You have to be hard to hit against Andre Fiallo. Unfortunately, you mentioned Jake Matthews, fight IQ, right hand low. It's just a bad combination. I got to go with Andre Fiallo until he proves me wrong again. So I'm going Andre Fiallo. I don't disagree with people that want to play the Jake Matthews side, but I mean, he's just knocking everyone out. I got to stick with him.
I think we're 4 fights in, and there are 4 very easy arguments to make for the underdogs. And we have a donation from Joe Rogan's forehead wrinkles. Thanks for stopping in, Joe.
Where does Joe Rogan's forehead stop, do you think?
What?
Where do you think it stops? You think it stops here?
Okay.
You think it stops here?
These are the things? These are the things you say?
It's an honest question.
Thank you very much for the donation. It's appreciated, and Jacob needs it for his rent money.
We're getting close, guys. We're getting close.
Yeah, it's almost there.
The worst thing that would ever happen is I have to sell this Ryan Hall card to pay rent. Nobody wants that. So please donate so I don't have to sell my Ryan Hall card.
Correct. Nobody wants that. Absolutely 100%.
The signed Corey Sanhagen, future champ. Huh? I don't want to have to sell this stuff, guys. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new.
Anyway, DraftKings pricing. We got $8,500 for Fiallo. Listen, if you think he does it again and he just continues to ride this train, then yeah, 100%. Spend that $8,500 in your DraftKings lineup because it's absolutely worth it. Jake Matthews, 77. He's live with those takedowns. He's live. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't know if either one of them will be in my DraftKings lineup. I do think Fialho wins, but if that dude gets taken down and hangs out on his back the whole time, that's not going to be shocking.
He's in my lineup. I'll tell you that. I just looked at my lineup just to verify. Right now, he is in my lineup.
All right. Well,
him and Della both. First round stoppage. Chasing him.
We'll see what happens there. Then we have the Monkey Knife Fight strike line. 52.5 strikes for Fialho, 61 for Jake Matthews. What do you think of that strike line?
I mean, it could end up being more if Jake Matthews bounces around a little bit. Fialho does get hit. It's just whether, in my mind, Jake can survive, wait for the big shot. Because Andre will be patient, right? I mean, he does have those. Last fight was a first round knockout, but Baeza was what? It was at least second round, right? I don't know if it was third round. Yeah, so he will take his time and wait for that shot. So this could add up quickly. I think it's probably a more.
Yeah, it may be a more because one is very hittable, and if Jake Matthews gets a takedown, which he may. Those strikes will add up as well. And when you get the grapplers, the strike counts tend to be a little higher because when they're against the cage defending shots, Fialho's just doing little pepper shots against the head. When they get the takedown, Jake Matthews is getting some shots in. So check that out. WeOwnPicks.com/MKF. It is daily fantasy. All you need to do is say more or less on these strike lines, and you can triple your money. And if you want $50, WeOwnPicks.com/bets. You sign up. You make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. That's weonpicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC 275, we have Jiri Mahashete, and he's taking on Steve Garcia. Jiri Mahashete is 6-1 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, and he is making his official UFC debut. Steve Garcia is 12-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, with all 4 of those wins being by stoppage. Jiri Mahashete is only 22 years old, and he only has 7 fights, but he has the composure of a veteran. He's coming off a Dana White Contender Series win where he was a plus 1,000 betting underdog. He was dropped early in that fight, like dropped hard and dropped early. But he still won that fight and became the first ever Chinese fighter to win a Dana White Contender Series contract. Style-wise, he's a fun, creative striker who can hang in a firefight or dance on the outside in a technical kickboxing match. He mixes in traditional mixed martial arts techniques like side kicks with flashy ones like spinning or step-in elbows. If you let him dictate the pace, you could have a long night. But if you stay in his face and you push forward, you can actually have some success getting to his chin. Steve Garcia was a featherweight for his entire career, but he's made the move to lightweight for the UFC. He's a solid grappler with good takedowns and decent boxing. He likes to come forward with big strikes, and he uses those to set up his grappling. Steve has been really vocal here that he's going to keep the pressure on, stay in Mahachete's face, and not give him any room to breathe. Literally says, the dude has 7 fights, and I'm going to exploit that. He was very open about he's going to work in his grappling, and I'm honestly pretty confident that he will do all of those things. I think it's a tricky fight because Mahashete is so inexperienced but does have composure, so we're not positive how he's going to react in all situations, and we did just watch him survive getting dropped early. But the reality is I do think Steve Garcia is going to get in his face, stay in his face, and it's just going to be too much. I think it's too much too soon for Mahashete. As long as Steve avoids, trying to fight a nice striking match with this guy, I think he'll have some success. I think he gets it done. I should have bet this line. It was like minus 140, something like that last week, and now it's ballooned up to minus 180. I'm not touching it at minus 180, but Steve Garcia is definitely the pick. What do you think, Jacoboy?
Speaking of getting dropped early, Steve Garcia in his last fight versus Charlie was dropped 12 seconds into the fight. 7 seconds later, he was dropped again. I think in the second, he was dropped again. I mean, that guy was getting dropped left and right, and for whatever reason, Charlie, a non-wrestler, non-grappler, kept following him to the ground. It was like chasing, like, mounted guillotines. He was doing stupid stuff, and Ryan Garcia was able to eventually get him on his back after every time he was dropped. It was kind of like the, actually, I'm not going to say it because I was going to trash my guy, but it was a strategy of, like, let me find any way possible to get to the ground, basically, even if I get knocked out because of it. And I know Mahashete was knocked out, but he showed how tough he was and resilient he was in that fight. And obviously, Garcia did the same thing, but those knockdowns were bad. I mean, that was like he didn't know what he was doing in the striking type of knockdowns. And Maheshete, I don't think he's going to have the same power as Charlie, but he's got the same dynamic type of striking. That guy will throw strikes from everywhere. He is a dog in his own right. If Garcia, if I knew that he was just going to wrestle, and we don't really know how Maheshete's wrestling is, I assume it's decent, probably not as good as Garcia's. So if Garcia came in and just immediately just started shooting takedowns, I mean, this is started. I mean, I think he did in his last fight a couple times, honestly. But if he was going to just wrestle heavy, this is almost like the Brendan Allen. I mean, this is Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis, I feel like. If Brendan Allen was just going to wrestle Chris Curtis, he would have had no issues in that fight. But he went, he tried to stay in with them, and he got in trouble. I see the same thing happen with Steve Garcia, especially if he's like, because I think I saw the same quote, like, I'm going to finish this guy, I'm going to TKO, whatever it is. If he stands with Maheshete, he's going to get knocked out. I mean, he is a chinny dude that just needs to wrestle. So I think he's going to be in trouble. He was able to out-wrestle a guy that's pretty much clueless on the ground in Charlie. I mean, Kevin Holland was out-wrestling and out-grappling Charlie. So he had a very, very high advantage in that fight. He probably has the advantage again in Maheshete in this fight, in the wrestling, in the grappling. But if he tries to strike with him, he's going to get knocked out. And I see him trying to pay-per-view card in front of the fans. Let me strike a little bit. You know, I don't know if this is going to be a lock of the week situation. I like the underdog in Maheshete. He does have some sneaky kicks that I love. You know, that might get him in trouble with the grappler, maybe with the wrestling, be able to take down. But Maheshete, he's a dynamic striker, man, and I like him to catch Steve Garcia, just like Steve Garcia was getting sharded and caught it in his last fight. So,
all right, we're split on this one as well. $7,800 in DraftKings. You spending that money on Maheshete?
No, because I'll tell you what, I have a bet on this fight. It is on Maheshete inside the distance, decision, no action. He showed how tough he was. He might get out wrestled for 3 rounds. I got that for plus 160. I put 1.5 units on it. Inside the distance, decision, no action on Maheshete, plus 160.
That's a great bet. Anybody who doesn't know what that is, well, first go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. BetOnline is the only partner that offers this. And what that bet means is if Maheshete stops Steve Garcia, Jacob will get played out at plus 160, which is actually better than the money line odds. If Maheshete loses a decision, Jacob gets a refund. That bet never happened. They give you your money back. They say, okay, no problem, no action. Here's your money back. So it's a really nice safety net bet, and it's perfect for situations like this where you have somebody who is live for a stoppage, but you know they are very durable and will not get stopped. Even if they get mauled, this dude could get mauled for 3 rounds. As long as he doesn't get stopped, Jacob can't lose any money. So that's a solid bet. wewantpicks.com/bets. You're only going to get that bet if you go to Bet Online. And if you use our link, I'll give you $50 as a thank you. So you're not doing it in DraftKings because you spent some real life money on it. But listen, this is another fight. They're pretty appropriately priced, frankly. The DraftKings money is much closer than the betting money. And if you think Steve Garcia mauls Maheshete, he's probably solid for your lineup. You get a bunch of takedowns, a bunch of control time. If you think Maheshete gets the stoppage, $7,800, great. That's money well spent. So I think you can't go wrong in DraftKings if you feel firmly on one side or the other. And then total strikes 45 to 76. That's a really tough line because if Steve Garcia works in takedowns, he should get the 76, no problem. Maheshete has been proven to be tough, so he likely will get past 45. I think it's a more. I do think Steve gets the takedowns, beats him up on top, gets past the 76. You're obviously on the other side of that fight, so you think it's less?
Yeah, but I still, I mean, he could find that the big punch late or the flying knee or the wild kick late too. Maybe Steve does come out and wrestle him early. Chris did a great job with these lines. Every time I keep looking at these lines, I'm like, man, these are good lines. So, screw you, Chris.
Well, and Chris is the guy at Monkey Knife Fight who sets the lines if you wonder who Jacob's cursing out. But check out Monkey Knife Fight. It's not even just these lines. They have something called Knockout Kings, which is incredible. Check it out at wewantpicks.com/MKF. It's daily fantasy.
Knockout Kings for this card would be incredible.
Guaranteed.
Sign up.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, sign up for Monkey Knife Fight. You pick 3 people.
Double up the main event. You're done.
Yeah. If you pick 3 people, well, Glover could be a sub, but Pick 3 people. If one gets a TKO or a KO, you win money. I mean, and you can easily pick 3 people, and one person's going to get a TKO.
We did it last week. Last week, I made a fortune. All I had to do last week, and I told all of you to do the same. I said, go to weonpicks.com/MKF, sign up. They'll match your deposit. Take however much money you're comfortable betting. It's fantasy, so it's not called betting. And put it on Knockout Kings for Alonzo Menafield and the dude with the sketchy record. Bang. Cashed. Done.
Yeah.
It was a guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Guarantee. Because you
Very
can do
easy.
any 3
if you guys haven't signed up, I literally don't know what you're doing. I know you guys think, oh, Monkey Knot, like, what the hell is this? I mean, it's free money, guys. It's like, sign up. Jesus.
Yeah, and we're talking Knockout Kings. That's their prop game inside of their prop game. So anyway, check that out and join our free Discord and let us know in the free Discord what some of your favorite picks and plays are, because we're all here to make money together and learn from each other. Next up at UFC 275, we have Sang-Woo Choi taking on Josh Cooleybow. Sang-Woo Choi is 10-4 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off that loss to Alex Caceres. Josh Cooleybow is 9-1 overall, 3-1-1 in his last 5, and he's coming back after a year away from the cage. Sang-Woo Choi is a very good, clean striker. He fights tall, and he throws solid with power. He does a really good job utilizing leg kicks, and at times, he uses them almost like a jab. He's a technical striker who sets up his takedowns well and uses them to clinch rounds, to seal up rounds. And he'll take a close round, work in a takedown, and that's no longer a close round for him. Josh Cooleybow is a solid striker who is aggressive and pretty tough for the most part. He throws heat, and he's always live for a knockout. He's also willing to fight dirty, and I don't mean like cheating dirty. I mean he'll fight a dirty fight inside the pocket and make it ugly. He has no problem making ugly, and you can see that with his negative striking differential. He will get hit as many times as he needs to come in and try to hit you. He's not much of a grappler, though, and while he has a solid takedown defense at 86%, he is 0 for 4 in the UFC for offensive takedown attempts. I think I like Choi in this fight. This is another fight with a very live underdog here, but I think I like Choi in this fight. I think he can keep it technical, avoid that phone booth brawl, and cruise to a solid striking win. Josh's power will have people nervous. I expect Choi to be able to avoid the big strikes, avoid the brawl, keep it technical, work in a taker down or two to solidify a decision. But Josh is more live than these odds will tell you. These are definitely wide odds. What do you think?
I think these odds are crazy. I actually think that this is probably the hardest fight on the card to pick. I still, like, going into this, I think I sent you a text earlier today that I still was kind of undecided on this fight, because Cooleybow is one of those guys that his UFC debut was short notice, up in weight for some very long Jalen Turner. Okay, he gets knocked out. I think you mentioned he broke his ankle in that fight.
He rolled his ankle. Yeah, something to that effect.
It was something like that. Yeah, and then he fights Charles Jourdain, who I think he stole the fight like late in the fight, which is what Charles Jourdain does. He gets beat up, and then he beats people up in the 3rd round. And then you saw his last fight. He looks fantastic. He seems like a guy that's starting to figure out the UFC. He's starting to trend up in his own right. And to me, when I watch this guy, he looks very Jeff Molina-like. We saw Jeff Molina in his last fight, a guy that will just kind of take his time in there, will not throw heavy shots, will just kind of, if somebody is trying to grapple him, he takes his time out of the exchanges. Actually, Jeff Molina almost lost that fight. He almost lost that fight. Some people think he actually did lose that fight because he was taking his time a little bit too much in the grappling exchanges. Not that Choi is going to grapple this guy, but the way he's so patient and so calm and knows when to throw power and when not to throw power. I just love his demeanor inside the cage. He's always smiling. He's having a good time in there. And I can see this as just a drag him out, back and forth fight, a split decision type fight. And it's such a tough fight to pick. I'm going to play the underdog side and Cooleybow because I think he's trending up. There's nothing against Choi. He lost his last fight, but he dropped Caceres in that fight. His striking is very, very precise. He's a long guy, and he catches people at the end of his punches, right? He's very good at using that length, very good at being in and out. Caceres basically just spider monkeyed onto his back and choked him out in that situation, but he was going to win that fight, or he was winning the striking in that fight at least. If Choi is able to find that power, maybe he can finish Cooleybow, but Cooleybow's tough. He knows what he's doing. The bet I played in this, I didn't take the money line in Cooleybow because Choi is a very good fighter. I played the plus 3.5. It's minus 105. I think it's a back and forth striking battle, and Culibao can easily steal at least one round. Could even win a decision in striking. Could win two, but he only needs to win one. I got minus 105 odds, so not the best odds, but it's pretty much even odds. I put just a unit on that. But I think he can win a round. I think he wins the fight. He's going to be my pick. This should be a back and forth striking fight. It could end up being the fight of the night. I know there's a lot of good fights. This could end up being the fight of the night. It's a tough fight to pick. Be careful if you want to play the choice side. If you're picking the underdog, I get it why. I get it why. I get why.
I get it why. I mean, it's definitely a really close fight. And Ted just sent us a $10 donation. He clicked the buy us a beer link. So thank you, Ted, for that $10. I will be drinking beer this Saturday.
Is that Ted Bundy, you think?
It might be. I don't care.
Money's money.
Kill me. Yeah.
That's like the golfers that are taking all that Saudi money. Hey, money's money.
And honestly, I appreciate that this pay-per-view was actually at a normal time, considering it's in Singapore.
Yeah, we got lucky. We got lucky.
They still cater to the American audience.
I think the prelims, I tweeted this too, I think the prelims start at 6:30 local time. So it might be a little bit weird for some fighters. I assume that they're all going to be adjusted, but it still could be a little bit weird.
Yeah, it might take them a little while to get going, but you're at the arena so early, no matter how tired you are when you show up, you should be able to ramp up. But yeah, it could definitely mess with some people. Listen, I like Sang Woo Choi to win, not for $9,100. That's a lot of money, and that's why we talk about DraftKings in this card. Man, he could get a stoppage, obviously. He's got real power. You'd mentioned he dropped Caceres, but $9,100 is like, if I'm spending that in my DraftKings lineup, I'm almost positive you are going to win by knockout. And I'm not positive he's going to win by knockout.
Yeah, I think I do have Culibao in my lineup. I think there's a lot of striking in this. Culibao's a tough dude, and he's going to be there. I mean, he's going to be there at the end. I don't see Choi getting a finish. I think these odds are crazy. I think this is a pick 'em fight, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the odds are definitely wide. I don't think it's a pick 'em. I think Choi wins, but the odds are definitely wide. 76 strikes to 52.
That's why you're wrong.
76 strikes to 52 strikes. If you want to play the Monkey Knife Fight line, strike line, go to weonpicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit. All you need to do is say more or less on this strike line. And if you're right, you can triple your money. I think it's more and more. I don't necessarily think there's a stoppage. I think they just start smacking each other around. It goes a while. Culibao shows us how tough he is, because he is tough, even though he does have that stoppage loss. Sang Woo Choi shows us how tough he is, how much damage he can do with his technical striking. I think they smack each other around, and I think it's more and more.
I think this is a fight. I think this is a fight of the night. I think it's a fight of the night. I think it's a split decision, and then I think Culibao pulls it out.
No, it very well could be. So check that
out.
out.
It ain't no guess. It's what it's gonna be. You know that's
right. Someone just finished Ozark, and if you want,
that's not 50, Ozark. What the hell?
Well, it sounded like what's her name.
Well, that's from Waterboy. Ain't no guess. It's what it's gonna be.
I don't remember. I only know.
I remember a lot of things.
Waterboy from the Big
Remember
Pun.
we talked about your dementia earlier today, Angelo.
I said Joe Montana. Anyway,
Joe Montana.
You want 50 free bucks?
Kill me.
Sorry. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit, and we will send you $50.
Yo, this whole thing dropped. Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yeah,
it did that during the live stream. It did that during the live stream Saturday, too. It just kicks me out, and then it comes back.
Yeah, I had to add you. Who the hell knows what happened? WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. We will send you $50. You still there? Yeah.
I am here.
Next up.
Hello.
Next up. UFC. Woosah from Bad Boys 2. Woosah.
Next up.
Next up at UFC 275, we have Brendan Allen taking on Jacob Malkoun in the prelim feature fight. Brendan Allen is 18-5 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off the submission win over Sam Alvey. Jacob Malkoun is 6-1 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a great grappling win over AJ Dobson. Brendan Allen is a BJJ black belt with solid low kicks, solid takedowns, and much improved striking overall. He just dropped and then submitted a very durable Sam Alvey. He moved to Sanford MMA a few camps ago, and you can really see those improvements. Historically, his game plan was grappling. He would get the takedown, be very tough on top, and work from there. But at some point in the last year and a half, he turned into a striker. And he's had mixed results. I mentioned he knocked down Alvey, but he was also knocked out by Chris Curtis in the fight before that. The fight right before that. Similar to Brendan Allen, Jacob Malkoun is a grappler who at times prefers to strike. He likes to plot forward and throw everything with power. And because of this, all his punches are looping. Even his jab isn't straight out. It's got a little looping action to it, but he sends it with a lot of power. He steps into everything, which can leave him open for takedowns, but it does add some sting to his strikes. He's a capable wrestler who lowers his level and times his shots really well. And most of his shots are clean and in the middle of the cage and not push against the cage and work down to the legs. The odds have Brendan Allen as a minus 280 favorite, and this keeps moving. This is minus
305
240.
now. Minus
Is it?
305.
Yeah, it was minus
right now.
240 when I did quick picks, and now he's ballooned up to over minus 3. Dude, minus 280 was, I did these graphics at like 3 p.m. So it's moving, and it's moving pretty quick. But it's a little tricky, and I think they're wide because on paper, yes, he just beat Sam Alvey, but he looked awful. He looked awful in that fight. Sam Alvey was touching up Brendan Allen. It looked like Sam Alvey was going to cruise to a win there, and it was remarkable. And then, Brendan Allen landed that punch and then worked the submission after that. The problem is, I honestly think that if Brendan Allen shows up on Saturday looking like he did against Sam Alvey, I think he loses that fight. I think Jacob Malkoun gets it done. But it's just so hard to know what Brendan Allen you're going to get because he also outstruck Punahil Soriano, and he looked great doing that. And he had no business striking with Punahil, but he did it. He outstruck him. He outgrappled Kevin Holland, and he looked great doing that. But then he gets just lit up by Chris Curtis. He looked terrible against Sam Alvey, even though that was a win. And I feel like I'm picking way too many underdogs on this card. The fact that the line continues to balloon up for Brendan Allen worries me here. But I think I like Jacob Malkoun to get it done. I think I can trust him to shoot, get the takedowns. And you can't trust Brendan Allen to grapple when you want him to grapple. You just can't trust him to do that. You mentioned it earlier on a different breakdown. He should have just wrestled Chris Curtis, and he didn't. And look what happened to him. So I think Jacob Malkoun, I think he can get it done. But listen, the bet is not the money line bet. Yes, plus 22, 225 or what, 250, whatever it works up to.
255 now.
255. That is enticing. The bet is plus 3.5. That's the bet. I think he can absolutely steal around. I don't think there's a stoppage. You think he stops him? You made a face.
I'll just keep going, Angela. I'll give my breakdown.
All right. Well, I think Jacob Malkoun can win a round plus 3.5. That's all that means. I'm buying one round on the judges' scorecard. I need him to win one round on his own. And then I'm good. I win my bet. I get my money. And I think Jacob Malkoun with the wrestling can absolutely win a round. You're only going to get that if you go to wewantpicks.com/bets. You sign up, you make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. Go ahead, Jacob. Let me know what you think of my pick.
No, I was going to say this is one of those cards, guys, again, where it's don't really listen to the pick, listen to the analysis, because I don't disagree with Angelo's analysis in this fight. I mean, he's going to wrestle. Jacob Malkoun is not interested in striking. He wants to take you down any way possible, if that's zombieing forward, whatever it is. And Brendan Allen, I like Brendan Allen, but you cannot trust him. You cannot trust him, especially at minus 300. You cannot trust him. I wouldn't put my fingernails on Brendan Allen at minus 300. I got great fingernails. Actually, I bite the shit out of my fingernails, but they still are kind of fantastic.
Dude, I actually have great. I bite this.
My mind I try to transition, and then they
were beautiful, and then just raw nuts.
I try to I think of something funny to say, and then I'm trying to grab something, and it just keeps going, and I just give up on it completely. Brendan Allen at minus 300, you can't trust the guy because he got knocked out by Chris Curtis, and you would have thought, okay, I got knocked out, let me just grapple Sam Alvey, that's my path to victory. But again, he tries to stand up with Sam Alvey, and there was like 30 seconds in that fight. Sam Alvey cracks the dude, doesn't drop him, and he ate it well. But Sam Alvey's got decent power, but he does like crack the dude, and he still is not looking to grapple. I think a little bit after that, he tried to grapple, was not able to get the takedown actually against Sam Alvey. He ended up getting a submission win because he knocked down Sam Alvey eventually. So maybe that makes him fall in love with the striking even more. I actually think that, as much as I don't trust Brendan Allen, I'm going to pick Brendan Allen. He's a 300 favorite. I think that this is the perfect matchup for him because it's a guy that doesn't really have knockout power, isn't looking to strike with you, and he's going to force the wrestling and the grappling out of Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's a guy that is losing his interest in whatever reason in the grappling. Jacob Malkoun's going to make him grapple. He's going to force the takedowns, and Brendan Allen's going to have to react to the grappling. What Brendan Allen cannot do is be that guillotine guy. You cannot be the guillotine guy. I'm sick of these jiu-jitsu guys being the guillotine guys. I say it every single week against the dominant wrestlers. You end up on your back, and Jacob Malkoun is a guy that when he gets on top, he is a ground and pound guy. If he gets on top of you, it's not going to be slow, methodical, work for submissions. Oh, I'm a black belt. I can defend against submissions. You cannot defend against elbows to your forehead, and that's what Jacob Malkoun will do to you. So I agree with Angelo in the right that if this goes to the ground and Brendan Allen is on his back, he is going to be in trouble. There's no throwing up triangles, throwing up arm bars. You can't do that against Jacob Malkoun. He's too good of controlling you on the ground. So I'm doing Brendan Allen. Hopefully he's able to use some of his offensive scrambles when Jacob Malkoun's shooting to end up in good positions and find submissions that way. If he wants to stand and strike, this might be the best guy to do it against, I guess. But I'm going to Brendan Allen. I don't trust him at all, but he is going to be my pick.
Yeah, it's hard. Brendan Allen's the more well-rounded fighter. He's definitely the more well-rounded fighter, but, you just don't know what game plan you're going to get out of him. So I'm not going to – this is not a hill I'm going to die on, but at this point, if you look at Brendan Allen's last two fights, he was slept by Chris Curtis and then looked like absolute trash against Sam Alvey. And I love Sam Alvey. I think Sam Alvey's much better than his record, but that dude's lost 5 fights in a row. So
and this could be a live bet situation because Brendan Allen could win the first round. We saw Jacob Malkoun in his last fight get basically dominated in the first round, then flip a switch and finally be able to get those takedowns. If he can't necessarily get the takedowns in the first round, these odds could balloon to if he's already minus 300, it could be minus 600, minus 7. Jacob Malkoun could be a plus 500 after the first round. But if he's still there, I might take a flyer on him because he could easily start grinding those takedowns and win the next 2 rounds.
Yeah, we'll see how this fight goes for sure. DraftKings 9,000 to 7,200. Listen, we're split on this, right? 9,000 says Brendan Allen's going to get a stoppage. Do you think he gets a stoppage?
I think he could, but I don't think he will. So I'm definitely not playing it for 9,000. I don't trust that son of a bitch.
It is. The problem is I don't like very many $9,000 fighters on this card, so it is very tricky. But $7,200 for Jacob Malkoun. If you think he wins and you think he works in, his UFC average is almost 7 takedowns per fight. Okay. If you think that's the type of fight that he fights, yeah, he needs to be in your lineup because takedowns are 5 point each and you're going to clean up and make a fortune on this guy. So again, pick your lane and run with that. The Monkey Knife Fight strike line, it's an interesting strike line because the favorite has fewer strikes listed here. The way Chris calculates these strike lines, first of all, go to weonpicks.com/MKF. You sign up, you make a deposit. They will instantly match that deposit. So you get some free money, and you can use that free money when you play these lines. The way Chris comes up with these strike lines is it's a math equation. He looks at how many strikes does Brendan Allen average per minute, and then how many minutes is this fight expected to go. And he does the same thing with Jacob. Jacob ends up on top, and he's busy on top. Therefore,
And I usually am a top. Hardly ever a bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly ever. But it's a power bottom situation when I am.
Yeah. No, you're definitely in charge down there. So Jacob has more strikes because he is busier in his fights overall, and it's just a simple math equation. I think it's probably more. I think this fight most likely goes the distance. I think they go at it. I think there's a lot of back and forth. So I do think it's a more situation. I don't necessarily think Brendan Allen's going to get a quick knockout, and I don't think Jacob Malkoun's going to take Brendan Allen and put him away. That's not how you beat Brendan Allen. Yeah, yes.
100% agree.
Red hair. Okay.
No, I was just going to say 100% agree.
All right. Well, fantastic. And if you agree that free money is a great thing, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit, and we will send you 50 schmackaroos.
Happy Pride Month.
Next up at UFC 275, we have Jack Della Maddalena taking on Ramazan Emeev. Jack Della Maddalena, 11-2 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, and he's coming off a first-round KO win. Ramazan Emeev is 20-5 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a close loss to Danny Roberts. Jack Maddalena, I said he's coming off that solid win in his UFC debut, but let's not forget, his opponent had only 4 fights.
Was a
he was
beast.
absolutely
Pete Rodriguez
dude,
is an absolute
that dude
monster.
had
Don't
4
forget, that guy is an absolute world beater.
He had 4 fights ever, has no business being in the UFC, was nowhere near ready for a fight like that. So yes, Jack smoked him, and Jack was supposed to smoke him. He is a striker with an interesting style. He plots forward on his toes with really nice step-in jab, a really nice step-in jab. And then if you respond, you ate the jab, and now it's time to throw something back. He just takes huge steps back, way out of range, and then restarts that cycle over and over and over. He has deceiving power. I compare him to Sean Strickland, where it doesn't look like he's throwing power, but they start to add up, and they start to really hit people and do some damage and rocking people in some cases, even finishing people. He's got solid takedown defense, but his offensive takedowns can use some work. Ramazan Emeev is a very well-rounded fighter. He's a solid kickboxer who will chain wrestle when needed. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight, and his accuracy is a low 29%, and we have talked about this time and time again. All that tells you is that he is a chain wrestler. He will take a shot, not get it, transition, and then eventually get that takedown, with each transition being recorded as another attempt, when the reality is it's the same entry and he's just working to get it to the ground. So you might be able to defend his first one, maybe a second, and then he's going to work you down from there. Yeah, I lost my train. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, teleprompter went out.
He is a Dagestani. Despite his Dagestani heritage, though, I would say he's a solid kickboxer. He's a good kickboxer. He flows really well between his striking and his grappling. He does not have a ton of power, but he does have plenty of cardio to keep a pace for a full 15 minutes. And I think this entire fight comes down to Jack's takedown defense. That's it. This whole fight just relies on, can Jack defend some takedowns? Because when Ramazan gets the takedowns, he dominates. But when he can't, like when he went 2 for 7 against Danny Roberts or 0 for 9 against Anthony Rocco Martin, he looks desperate, and the judges hate that. I hate that I like so many underdogs on this card, especially coming off UFC Vegas 56, where only 2 underdogs and 14 fights won. But I think Emeev gets it done here. I think his striking will flow well between, he'll flow well between his striking and his grappling. I genuinely think he's going to get those takedowns. If you go back, I mentioned Jack's got decent takedown defense, but if you go back and watch some of his regional fights, he fought Glenn Pettigrew, and Greg Pettigrew was able to work in takedowns, and he doesn't have anywhere near the wrestling abilities that Ramazan does, or the cardio. So I like Emeev, the nonstop wrestling, the nonstop pressure. I fully recognize that Maddalena has real power, an insane jab that can be frustrating, but I do think Ramazan Emeev gets this done for what feels like my 17th underdog pick of the night.
Yes, so something has to give in this fight, because Emeev is a guy coming off 8 straight decisions, and Jack Della is a guy that only has 1 decision in his entire fight. So something has to give. I actually don't disagree with your analysis again. I think the analysis is fine. Remember, listen to our analysis, not necessarily the pick, and then pick whichever side you want. Emeev, if he is able to get the takedowns, he probably does win the fight. But even if he's able to get the takedowns, this is, like, as I mentioned, a decision fighter. He's not somebody that gets people to the ground and finishes him. That means, I don't know what exactly that means. If Jack is able to get back to his feet, I just love Jack's ability, the way he's so fluid and the way he switches stances in his striking and the way he's able to throw that jab from both sides, southpaw and orthodox. And especially, I think it's his southpaw side that he's really, really effective with that jab. And a guy that isn't a finisher, Emeev, the longer this fight goes on, the more he's going to eat jabs and eat jabs and eat jabs and eat jabs. Because Jack is a guy that just pressures you, and he's in that range. He's always in that jab range. And you saw that Pete fight, that last Pete fight. Pete's probably the best boxer, maybe alive. I didn't want to say that, but Pete is probably one of the best boxers alive. If Pete is fighting Floyd Mayweather, I think he knocks out Floyd Mayweather in the first round. And Jack Della,
somebody's gonna hit up the comments thinking you're serious
and be like, "What? Oh my God, Floyd Mayweather would dominate that guy." Yeah, obviously, you clown. Jack Della was just destroying that dude's face inside of 2 minutes with the jab, just boom, boom, boom. The longer this fight goes, Jack Della will just sit there and just jab and jab and jab, break this dude's face, and finally start sitting on shots. I've placed 2 moneyline bets on this card so far. One is Liang Na, full unit. This one, I actually kind of wish I would have waited because the odds ballooned them, I think, minus 170. So I put 1.7 units on it to get a unit back. They're actually back down to, minus 155. But I like Jack Della in this fight. Just the way he moves and switches stance, I think is going to be an issue for Emeev to find those takedowns. And if he cannot find those takedowns, as you mentioned, it's going to be a big, big issue. So Jack Della to get those jabs off and then sit down on a punch. We'll see if he can find the finish.
So looking at these two guys, who do you think, just looking at their faces, is better at striking?
Yeah, he's got a little crooked nose.
Yeah.
His nose is a little crooked.
It's not great. That dude definitely has a sleep apnea machine.
And he needs the Mike Perry where you just take the nose out. And then the problem solved.
Floppy skin.
Have you seen Mike Perry do that where he just smashes his nose down completely? He has no bone left in his nose. It literally just he can make it flat. I mean,
it's disgusting.
That's what I would do if I was a fighter and I was really dedicated to sport. And I am a fighter. I mean, don't get it twisted. You come at me and you're gonna get dropped. No, but if I was going the professional route instead of the modeling route, I would just remove my nose bone. No more boners.
What? Anyway, it's basically a pick 'em in DraftKings. So again, the odds in DraftKings, I guess it's somewhat even, the odds, but DraftKings made it as close to a pick 'em as they normally do. So you can't choose your side. You think Maddalena wins by stoppage? He should 100% be in your lineup. We're talking $8,200. You can't beat that price. If you think Ramazan Emeev gets a bunch of takedowns, a bunch of control time, cruises to a decision win, he should be in your lineup because $8,000 to score 70, 80, 90 points, you can't beat that either. What?
I have I was gonna say Dana is $8,300. Dana is in my lineup, not Jack Della, because I like him a little bit more to get the early stoppage.
That's fair. I picked against both of those guys, but that's definitely fair. Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line. It's just so funny. Like, none of this makes any sense because, like you mentioned, Jack, it's all stoppages. Yet fight goes the distance is minus 180. So the bookies have said this guy wins by stoppage, and we think he's going to win. But the over on the round line it's logically not making sense. Same with the number of strikes, 81 strikes, 51 strikes. That's a lot of strikes. I think this is a less more situation. I don't think Jack Della is going to land 81 strikes. I do think Ramazan Emeev is going to get the takedowns and land a bunch of strikes on top. So I like
Emeev plus 3.5 is minus 230. That's pretty. It's pretty hefty.
Yeah, and if you don't know what the minus 3.5 or no plus 3.5, if you don't know what plus 3.5 is, you're just buying a round on the scorecard. So Ramazan Emeev just needs to win one round on his own. I bought a round, and then I get paid if he wins one. So the bookies have said Jack Maddalena is going to win this fight. It's going to go the distance, and it's going to be 29-28. That's essentially what the bookies have said. But that's not what their records tell you. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not.
Oh, I know what you mean.
It just doesn't make any sense. And obviously lines move with money, so they just follow the money. But anyway.
Ooh, I move too.
Okay. If you want to check out Monkey Knife Fight.
Do you get it, though? Do you know what I mean on that one?
If you want to check out Monkey Knife Fight, weontpicks.com/MKF. You sign up, you make a deposit, they match that deposit. Give them 100, they'll give you 100. Take their money, their free money that they gave you, and play some of the lines there. If you want $50 literally for free, the only thing you need to do is go to wewantpicks.com/bets. You sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. Next up at UFC 275, we have Rogerio Bontorin taking on Manel Kape. Rogerio Bontorin is 17-4 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off a close loss just 4 months ago. Manel Kape is 17-6 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's riding a 2-fight knockout streak. Rogerio Bontorin is a well-rounded grappler who has heavy punches, and he throws with intent, but it's mostly there to set up his grappling. And his grappling is very good. He has solid pressure on top, and he's very controlled. He'll plot. He'll take his time. He'll work from one position to another. He does all of this while keeping pressure and throwing strikes. He can absolutely submit anyone on the ground, but he does take his time and can fall behind on the scorecards. He's coming off a split decision loss to Brandon Royval, where he had 8 takedowns, almost 8 minutes of control time, but only landed half the strikes Royval did. So Royval was on his back for 8 minutes, got taken down 8 times, and still doubled Rogerio Bontorin's strikes. Manel Kape is a fast, explosive striker who has no issues chasing knockouts. He's a southpaw with good pressure, and he bounces in and out of range really well. He's a decent wrestler when he needs to be, and he closes distance really well when he wants to. And that's the problem, when he wants to, because he's fun to watch, but sometimes he's having too much fun, and he makes fight IQ mistakes and doesn't do what he's supposed to do because he's too busy doing what he wants to do, and he's too busy trying to have some fun out there. And this should be a fun fight. It's another close one, and there's very clear paths of victory for each fighter. If Bontorin can keep the grappling pace like he did against Royval, he can have some real success here. But if he's chasing and not setting things up well, diving at legs from really far out, he can be KO'd the exact same way Zalgas was. I do like Manel here. I think his 80% takedown defense is going to hold up. The other thing to consider here, though, is that if you look at the Holly Holm fight and more recently the Jeff Molina decision, judges don't seem to be favoring control time or wrestlers who get takedowns and do nothing with them. So I don't know what the judging situation will be. Sometimes overseas, they're forced to use local judges. Sometimes the UFC with Mark Ratner, they bring in judges. They'll bring in judges that they've used elsewhere. But recently, if we've seen anything, judges don't care if you get takedowns unless you're doing damage. So that will only help Manel Kape here as well. So Manel Kape is my pick, but Rogerio Bontorin, clear path to victory if he wants it.
Yeah, let me. Usually you say like you go to me. Usually say like Jacob.
I'm trying to be smooth. It's just silk.
Well, that's something you'll never be. But Manel Kape, let me be honest with you guys. And full transparency, I hate Manel Kape. Not as a person, as a fighter. I don't actually. As I was sitting here, I figured it out, Angelo. I couldn't figure out why I hate Manel Kape. I literally just figured it out as I'm thinking about it.
Jacob, don't.
No, it's because I think he is exactly what I would be as a fighter, because he's not that good, but he thinks he is like the absolute best fighter in the world. And I understand that all fighters are confident, right? But this guy thinks he is like the best fighter in the entire world, and good for him for that confidence. But he lost 2 fights in a row, basically for, kind of being like inactive in those fights. I mean, being a little too cool for school type of situations. And then he's losing against Ode and finds a knockout. So that would have been 3-0. Then he's losing against Zalgas and then finds a knockout. And I said, I picked against him for the Ode fight. I picked against him for the Zalgas fight. And I said going in that Zalgas fight, if Manel Kape ends up beating Zalgas, I will never pick against Manel Kape again. So I don't like the guy for whatever reason as a fighter. I mean, personally, I have nothing against the guy. But for some reason, as a fighter, I do not like the guy. I am going to pick him in the fight. He should win this fight, so this is probably the fight that he's going to lose. If you're Bontorin, you just need to wrestle and make this fight boring, because if you make this fight boring, Manel Kape will let you make the fight boring, and you can grind out a decision win. But if you start getting into firefights with Manel Kape, he'll lose. He's almost like the Andre Fiala, right? He'll lose exchanges until he wins the one exchange. He'll lose it. He's getting hit, and then boom, you're knocked out on the canvas. So my pick is Manel Kape in this, but this is probably gonna be the one he loses because I picked against him twice. He won both times. Now I'm on the Manel Kape side. Yeah, no, he's probably going to lose, but Manel Kape's my pick.
Well, and let's not forget the whole PED thing. So Manel Kape pissed hot a couple months ago.
Him and me both.
He's suspended right now. The only reason he's allowed to fight on this card is because it's not in America. It's outside of any jurisdictions, any athletic commissions. It is in Singapore. That's the only reason he's allowed to fight. Now, he appealed it. He was like, it must be tainted supplements. Like the level that I tested positive for is so ridiculously small. There was some other circumstances.
Picogram. What's with the John Joe's? A picogram?
Pico. Yeah, they gave him a 6-month suspension. It has not been 6 months. This just happened recently. So that could be a factor here. It could be in his head, could be messing with him. I don't know, but he is fighting. That's why I didn't open with that, because that doesn't play a factor into my pick. But that is happening to him right now. He is technically suspended. He cannot fight in America.
Hell, if you're already suspended, you might as well just load it up, man. You might as well just start loading that thing up, baby.
Well, and the UFC picked the side, right? They're not punishing him. They're putting him on this card. The UFC is like, yeah, we believe him. That doesn't matter. That doesn't count. So I pick Kape. You're not, right?
No, I picked Kape.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You said you can't pick any of his fights. Correct. We both on the Kape side, $9,200 to $7,000. Listen, Manel Kape, if he just continues this knockout streak, then yeah, he's worth that money. I mean, he's putting people out. Even the Ode fight was losing, bang, knockout. So he's live for a knockout. He doesn't get frustrated if he falls behind.
What a joke.
He doesn't get frustrated when he falls behind.
I think Ode was my lock of the week, or so. I can't remember if he was.
Dude, this is such a tricky card too, because I've picked so many underdogs. I mean, I could see all the underdogs I pick losing, and then all the favorites I pick. Like every one of these fights, there is a very reasonable argument to be made for both sides, and there's very few fighters on this card that if they win, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Right. And that's why I keep saying, listen to the analysis, not necessarily the picks, because the picks are wild on both sides this week. So listen to the analysis. I guarantee you we have better analysis than anyone.
Well,
and if you think someone has better analysis, you come see me. I got these gloves behind me. Whew.
Okay. What the hell was I just saying? Okay. You want 50 free bucks? WeWantPicks.com/bets. You sign up, you make a deposit, we send you $50 as a thank you. If you want to dip your toes in the daily fantasy water, check out Monkey Knife Fight. All you need to do is save more or less on these strike lines, and you can triple your money. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. 39 to 71. 71's a lot. 39 is not a lot. That's a weird line. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Chris, damn it. You did it.
I'm not going to touch.
Damn you, Chris.
Don't touch this strike line. Throw Manel Kape in your Knockout Kings. We talked about it. Monkey Knife Fight's got a game called Knockout Kings. You can pick any 3 fighters on the entire card. Any 3, even 2 in a fight with each other. Any 3. And if one of them, just one wins by KO or TKO, you get yourself some money. They'll instantly match your deposit, so they'll give you free money. Take the free.
Fialo Dana Kape. Boom.
You can have Jiri if you're on that side. There's a bunch of people that are live for knockouts, at least at what people think. So check it out. WeOnPicks.com/MKF. Next up at UFC 275, we have the rematch of one of the best fights I've ever seen. Definitely the best female fight of all time, but straight up one of the best fights ever. It was an amazing fight between Weili Zhang and Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Weili Zhang is 21-3 overall, 3-2 in her last 5, and she's coming off back-to-back losses to Rose Namajunas. Joanna Jedrzejczyk is 16-4 overall, 2-3 in her last 5, alternating wins and losses, but she's making her return after a 2-year layoff. And I mentioned this is a rematch of one of the most exciting fights I've ever seen. If you don't remember the first fight, it was a wild back-and-forth striking match where almost 400 strikes were landed, and Joanna's forehead swelled up worse than I've ever seen anything before in my entire life. What?
Joanna. You would say Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna. Joanna Jedrzejczyk. It was a razor-thin fight. The judges gave it to Weili. I actually think Joanna won that fight. Her swollen forehead, I think, is the reason the judges didn't give it to her. It was like hard to look at. Like, it looked like if they told you that like she has permanent brain damage, what are you laughing at?
No, you said it was hard to look at, and I remember, I mean, she was just a completely different person. Because Joanna, by the way, Joanna, if you're watching, you are not hard to look at. But in that fight, for a little bit, you were a little bit where it's like, my stomach hurts a little bit.
It was, I mean, if you said she's got brain damage, like, yep, that was her brain swelling. Like, it was hard to look at. Anyway, I think the judges were like, oh my God, she definitely lost this fight. But I personally would have scored it for her. I think it was a very close fight, and it was an amazing fight. Anyway, moving on to the rematch, Weili Zhang is a striker. She's more of a boxer than a kickboxer. She's coming off those back-to-back losses to Rose, but they were very different losses. The first loss was a quick knockout. The second one was a much closer fight where Weili looked very good. I think she won that fight. Other people do as well. She added wrestling to her game plan. She worked in 5 takedowns. She ended up losing that fight most likely because there were 2 scrambles in there that she lost, and she ended up on bottom. Weili has a ton of power, incredible volume, and pretty solid footwork. Joanna Jedrzejczyk is a phenomenal striker, and some people still consider her the division's greatest of all time. She has an insane 2-to-1 striking differential and an 81% takedown defense over 14 fights. So 2-to-1 striking differential by itself is not insane. 81% takedown defense by itself, not insane. Those 2 things over 14 fights, that is insane, especially when she was the champion for such a long period of time, fighting the best women on the planet. She has wins over current champion Carla Esparza, Michelle Waterson, Claudia Gadeja, Tisha Torres, Jessica Andrade, and she has never in her entire career lost a non-title fight. She's coming back after a 2-year layoff, and her last win was all the way back in 2019 against Michelle Waterson. The most impressive thing about that win, though, was that she had 3 takedowns of her own, and she still tripled Michelle's strikes. This is another close fight on a card loaded with close fights. And when I first saw it, I immediately was like, oh, Weili's going to win this fight. And it was because of her striking, her improved grappling, and the fact that she's been active. But then you look a little closer, and Joanna has the better wins. Joanna has much more experience at this level. Joanna arguably won the first fight. Jesus Christ. Arguably won the first fight.
Don't talk to me like that. You put respect on her name.
And now I'm seeing the fight a little closer than I originally had it. I'm still going to stick with Weili here, though, and I really do think the activeness makes the difference here. 2 years away is a very long time. And striking timing is something that comes with actual fighting. It is very hard to go away for over 2 years and then just fall right back into a striking rhythm. Even though Weili's active, I mentioned she's been more active. Those were losses. So even though they were losses, though, it's still time in the cage, still full camp, still preparing for a fight, still actually fighting, working in takedowns, working in striking, and continuing to move her career and continuing to push forward. After the first Rose loss, Weili went back, retooled, made improvements, and came back and honestly physically looked like a different fighter, but also worked in some new tools. After Joanna lost her belt, she fired her nutrition team, blamed the weight cut, pointed fingers at anybody except herself. And it's impossible to know what 2 years away looks like. I'm excited for this fight. I wish it was 5 rounds. It's only 3. And I actually think that's a factor here as well. So I like Weili to win the rematch. What do you think, Jackie boy?
Yeah, I think if this was 5 rounds, I'd feel probably a little bit better about Joanna in the matchup because it will give her a little bit more time. You mentioned the layoff to find that rhythm, to get back in that striking mode. I don't think it's going to affect her as much as maybe like a younger fighter, a 25-year-old, because she is such a very, very good striker. She's been through all the reps before, and it's not like she's not been doing anything. She's still at ATT, Mike Brown. They'll have a game plan ready for her. I would feel more comfortable if it was 5 rounds. 3 rounds gives Weili that ability. She has the power advantage. She's going to land the harder shots, and in 3 rounds, she doesn't really have to pace herself as much. even in the grappling. She can go a little bit more all in the takedowns if she chooses to, because she doesn't have to pace herself for 3 rounds. I mean, maybe she comes in first round really grapple heavy. You know, Joanna does have that good takedown defense. I think Weili was only 1 of 8 in that first matchup, but Weili is improving her takedowns. If she wants to go that route, you know, maybe she does to kind of mitigate the striking of Joanna, because Joanna is, nobody's going to strike better than Joanna technically as a kickboxer. And I like that you said it is like a boxer versus a kickboxer, because Joanna will go body, she'll go legs, she'll go head, she will go everywhere, kicks, do everything, and judges like seeing that. A lot of times when you're just kind of boxing, but you see the other strikes, you know, the judges will go towards that guy or girl that looks like they're a little bit more active with the 3 or 4, 5 punch combinations with the kick, where Weili is just throwing 1-2 boxing combinations. You know, to me, Joanna is the Jose Aldo of the women's strawweight division. I mean, she was the champion for a long time, and she only loses to champions or former champions. And unfortunately, in this matchup, she is against, again, a former champion of the division. So it's a very, very close, tough call. Weili is going to have the power. The layoff does worry me a little bit. Even in the exchange, if you watch that first fight, Joanna is very technical, but she's not a pure athlete. Where Weili, you can see the athleticism and things that she does, the way that she's able to move in and out of striking exchanges, even in the wrestling scrambles. You can tell she's just the more athletic person. With that said, I think that Joanna won that first fight. I think she finds a way to show the judges that she's more active in those exchanges. So Weili might have the power in the 1 and 2s, but it's going to be 4, 5, 6 punch kick combos from Joanna in those exchanges. I think she's looking sharp with the layoff. Max Holloway is one of those people that doesn't spar. He's a little bit more active, obviously, than Joanna. But I think that Joanna, the time off is going to serve her right. She got mentally right, whatever that means for that particular person. She's still with ATT, with Mike Brown. She seems like she's in a great space mentally, very happy, jovial. If you'll, if you go back to the dictionary for that one, I looked that up before the breakdown started. Jovial. I wanted to use jovial in this matchup. So my pick is going to be Joanna. She could end up being lock of the week, honestly, but it's a close call. I wish it was 5 rounds. I just think that she's able to throw a little bit more combos to get the judge's decision in this fight.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. I'm definitely going to enjoy it. And honestly, I think I like Weili enough to throw on the money line. Minus 155.
This is a pick fight, Angelo.
I think I'm pretty confident in her, honestly.
I mean, you just said you thought she won the first time.
And it's been many years. It's been 2.5 years or whatever it is. 2.5 years. Yeah, nothing changes in 2.5 years.
Look, my headset was like, I don't want to listen to that guy anymore. He was out of my headset was out of here, man. It's like, get me out of here.
So I may hit that up. We'll see what happens. But DraftKings wise, I actually don't think either one of these women should be in your DraftKings lineup. We're talking a 3-round fight, not a 5. I don't know how well either one's going to score. $8,800. That's a lot of money to spend. You really got to be counting on her to get those takedowns. I'm not going to have either one of my DraftKings lineup. What do you think? If it was 5 rounds, it'd be very different, but not 3.
Joanna's probably going to be on mine because I think that she finds a decision win. That's 30 points, and I think she can get 70, 80 points in strikes because they're both going to be, they're both willing. It takes 2 to tango, and they're both going to be dancing and hopefully dance with me. I love Weili, too. I'm a big Weili person. She is hilarious. But, yeah, Joanna, what's up? Let's dance.
Okay. Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line 115 to 97. I thought that was absurd. But then I just mentioned in their first matchup, they landed 400, almost 400. So yes, this is 3 rounds instead of 5. I don't think this fight's going to be. How often do rematches live up to the hype? Not very often. And not very often is it the exact same fight. Like, that was a war. Weili almost lost it. Joanna did lose it. Her forehead was discussed. Why would you do that exact same? Why would you have the same game plan? Why? Why would you come out of that fight and then try to fight the exact same fight again? You wouldn't. You'd have to be crazy to do that. I'm expecting Weili to grapple, and I'm expecting Joanna to probably grapple or push the pace or try something different here. So I don't think these strike lines are going to be what they were last time. I just don't, because it would be foolish to have that same strike first game plan. It would just be foolish after the beating they both took. So I like less on the Monkey Knife Fight strike line, regardless of who you think wins. And I'm pretty confident in that. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I actually think the first half of the first round could be like the Rose Esparza fight, to where they're just like,
staring
all right,
at each
are
other.
we going to do this again? And Joanna, the layoff, is trying to find a range and stuff. But I think once they start going at it, they really go at it. So, that is pretty high, but I'll still probably play them more and more.
Yeah, no, I like the less on this, but check it out. Play your own line. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit. And if you want 50 free bucks, you want some free money to deposit, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit with any one of our 5 betting partners, and we send you $50 as a thank you. Next up at UFC 275, we have the main event of the evening. We have women's GOAT Valentina Shevchenko taking on Taila Santos. Valentina Shevchenko is 22-3 overall, 5-0 in her last 5, and her last loss was all the way back in 2016. Taila Santos is 19-1 overall, 4-1 in her last 5, coming off a submission win over Joanne Wood. Valentina Shevchenko is one of the best fighters on the planet, regardless of division or gender. She won the belt in 2018 and has defended it 6 times since then. She's a phenomenal striker, very good grappler, and has true champion composure and mindset. Her striking is the best in any division. She very technical, has enough power combined with technique that she's just putting people away. The last few years, we've really seen her game evolve, and she's mixed in takedowns much more. She has 18 takedowns in her last 4 fights, and all of them were against opponents that she could have easily outstruck. She's catching kicks in transitioning to a takedown, ducking, looping shots and transitioning to a takedown. She's just shooting takedowns and working in those takedowns, and it's fantastic to see. She is a complete fighter. She can do anything, anywhere to anyone except Nunes. She did lose to Amanda Nunes twice. Taila Santos is also a striker, but a very different kind of striker, where Shevchenko is technical and diverse. Taila is powerful, athletic, and just willing to slug it out. She's coming off her first stoppage win in the UFC, but it is her 14th overall. Not only is her boxing fantastic, though, her grappling is as well. She averages almost 2.5 takedowns per fight with an 86% takedown accuracy and an 88% takedown defense. If you look at her fight against Molly McCann, she took her down 5 times because she was aware enough to know, listen, Molly's a good striker, volume striker. I'm just going to shoot takedowns. And she might need to do the same here against Shevchenko. So anytime Shevchenko fights, you're going to see some wild odds. Right now, the odds are sitting at -630. She was a bigger favorite earlier in the week. So some money did come in on Taila Santos to move that line just a little bit. That translates to about 86%, 85% probability, meaning the bookies think that Shevchenko wins this fight pretty much 9 out of 10 times, and it's hard to disagree with that. I will say, I think Taila Santos is one of the most dangerous opponents that Shevchenko has fought. And if you look at her last few opponents, Shevchenko beat Lauren Murphy. She's a bully, but she's not dangerous. Jessica Andrade is dangerous, but not at this weight class. Jennifer Maia is 4-5 in the UFC with 8 decisions, and Caitlin Chikagian is a decision fighter. Now, my point is not that Shevchenko is going to lose, but I just want to emphasize that Taila Santos is dangerous, and Shevchenko hasn't been in any trouble. It'll be interesting to see if she does get into some trouble. So Shevchenko is the pick. I am actually hoping for a war. I want to see, I don't want to just the Mike Tyson effect where she's just going to come out here, destroy somebody, and then we move on to the next fight. I want to see a war. What do you think, Jakey boy? And I know you tweeted the Taila Santos stoppage stats.
Yeah, so I was one of those people that gave Juliana Pena a shot versus Amanda Nunes. I told you guys, if you guys watch our breakdown of that fight, I said that Juliana Pena could beat Amanda Nunes, and that's exactly how she beat her, was just piecing up her face, make her tired, because Nunes is going to be a little bit overconfident in that matchup, try to finish her the first round. Juliana Pena ended up winning. I agree 100%. Taila Santos is the most dangerous fighter that Shevchenko has fought. And if you're Shevchenko in this fight, you can't fight her like you've been fighting people. You can't be coming across and just trying to set the tone and try to bully her out, because you're not going to be able to bully Santos out of this fight. If you're Santos, you're not going to win a decision. I mean, people are saying that you're just not going to win a decision versus Shevchenko, because she is just so technical and so good everywhere. If you try and take her down, she'll probably going to judo and end up on top. If you try to just kickbox her, you're going to lose those exchanges. If you're Shevchenko, you got to make this fight just boring. I know that you're that kind of that pressure fighter, and you're going to find those firefight exchanges once you get your timing. But I would not stay for that third punch of those exchanges, because a lot of times Shevchenko, once she gets in those exchanges and has her timing, it is 4 or 5 punch combinations with a kick afterwards. It's boom, 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 boom. Everything is fast and precise, but Santos will be there and is going to be waiting with those counters. You mentioned the stat that we brought up. She has Santos. We're talking about Santos now. She has 13 finishes, 1 finish in the UFC. That was her last fight against Wood. She is a dangerous fighter, but let me read off and pay attention, guys. 12 finishes before she got to the UFC. These are the records of the people she finished before she got to the UFC. 0-10, 0-2, 0-2, 0-5, 0-4, 0-1, that was a sub. 0-2, 0-1, that's a sub. 8-12, 3-2, 2-7, and 1-11. Those are the people she was finishing before she got to the UFC. So you see all these finishes, and she was finishing those fights, but the level of competition was not great. The last fight that she had that she finished before Wood was against an 0-10 fighter. So she's finishing people, but she has not brought those finishes to the UFC. And unfortunately, I don't see her being able to win a decision versus Shevchenko. Yes, she is dangerous. You can have those inflated stats and still be a dangerous fighter. I do agree she still is a dangerous fighter. If Shevchenko gets sloppy at all, or think that she's just going to bully Santos to a win, it will not happen. Santos does have an outside chance, maybe in a weird grappling exchange. She does have pretty good power. But Shevchenko is who she is. She is just so technical in every exchange. She doesn't force things. She will wait. She gets the timing, and then she goes. I just don't see any way that Shevchenko, loses this fight. Obviously, there's those outside chances. I thought that Nunes could lose that fight versus Juliana Pena, but in this, Shevchenko is just too technical. Too technical.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, we both think Taila Santos is dangerous. I'm hoping, not necessarily for an upset. I just hope it's a war. I don't necessarily think we're going to get that. So $9,600 in DraftKings. It's a lot of money to spend in DraftKings, but she hasn't let us down yet. And there's, we do these picks, we do these breakdowns, we do our research, and somebody's always just trying to come up with looking for reasons to pick against somebody. It's a stretch. I see a lot of you in the comments, Taila Santos is going to dominate. She could. It's a fist fight. Anything can happen. But there's no reason to believe. Not only is Shevchenko dominating everybody, she's doing it however she wants. She's out striking. She's out grappling. She's literally doing whatever she wants. She hasn't even looked like a human being. She's just kicking the crap at everybody any way that she wants to, choosing to grapple when she could easily strike. And I think that is the difference between her and Nunes, where Nunes was beating people with the raw power, was always the hammer, never the nail. And, not that Valentina's the nail before, but I just think she does put in 100% effort, does come out here, is prepared for a war, even though she's not getting one. So I like Shevchenko, obviously, to win. So does Jacob. $9,600, probably. Especially on a card like this where there's not many people that you're positive are going to win.
There's a lot of inflated values in that 9,000 range where Shevchenko, even though it's 9,600, she's probably the safest one of the 9,000 and up.
Yeah, she's the most confident pick on the entire card for everybody. So how can you not have her in your DraftKings lineup? The Monkey Knife I strike like 109 to 89. I think it's less. I think it's a stoppage in either direction. I think it's less. I think. I don't think it's going to be a war. I don't think it's going to be 4 rounds. 109 strikes. You got to get to, past the third.
It's 5 rounds, and if Shevchenko just dances around and kickboxes, those will add up quickly on both sides. Because So I think it's a more and more. I think Chevy just plays it nice and calm, kickboxing, stays at range, and just does her thing. I don't think she messes around this fight. She knows how dangerous. She's very well aware how dangerous Santos is. So I can see this going 5 rounds with a Chevy, 50-45 decision.
Yeah, we'll see. It could go 5 rounds. And then in that case, Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line will be a more and more. You want to check it out? Play your own line. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit up to $100. And if you want $50 for free, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 5 different betting partners. They all offer their own bonuses, their own matches. And we send you $50 on top of that. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. However you want it, WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up, at UFC 275, we have Glover Teixeira defending his belt against Jiri Prochazka. Glover Teixeira is 33-7 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight stoppage streak and is coming into his first title defense. Jiri Prochazka is 28-3 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, riding a 10-fight stoppage streak that spans 6 years. Before I dive in, full disclosure, I am very biased here. I know Glover personally. I have known him personally for a stupid long time, like literally since the early 2000s. I'm from Connecticut. He has spent his entire, however, 20 years in Connecticut or something stupid. And you know how we talk about the Angelo sandwich and the sandwich that they named after me at the deli because I coached the kids and all that shit? Glover worked at that deli. And he was training with his jiu-jitsu coach, and his jiu-jitsu coach needed a new place to train, new facilities. They came to me and the other wrestling coach saying, hey, can we use the wrestling gym after school? And if we do, you can do jiu-jitsu for free. And that's how I met Glover, through that, and Luigi, my jiu-jitsu coach. So I've known him for a very long time, could not be a better human being. Therefore, I am biased, but I'm going to put that aside. And straight up, this analysis, I'm going to shoot it straight. We'll see. We'll see. And if you watch any of the UFC 275 promos, you know just how decorated Glover Teixeira is. I was actually surprised watching last week's fight night, some of the stats and records that he holds. He holds records for both the amount of knockouts in his division, the amount of submissions in his division, and he holds longevity records, lots and lots of records at light heavyweight, to the point where on paper, you could argue he's one of the best light heavyweights to ever do it. Obviously, that's a very hard argument. That's a very decorated weight class. But my point is, the records he holds are very, very impressive. He has a Mike Tyson striking style where really tight guard, and then he comes in, blasts over the top. He has incredible strength, and he uses that strength for his wrestling and his grappling. He explodes in the combinations when he's striking, and then he transitions to his wrestling from there. Early in his career, he was known as a striker who had a BJJ black belt. But lately, he's become a grappler who just has a ton of power in his hands. He took down Jan twice, Thiago Santos 4 times, Anthony Smith once, but he only needed to do it once, all in fights where he got stoppages because of the grappling pressure. And yes, he's 42 years old, but somehow his chin has found a second life. And Glover Teixeira is the UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. Jiri Prochazka is an actual crazy person and incredibly fun to watch. He's a dangerous striker with pretty much all 28 of his wins coming by stoppage. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but both of them were spectacular second-round knockouts that earned him Fight of the Night bonuses. The knock on Jiri is how hittable he is. He is hit with almost 7 significant strikes per minute. That's an insanely high number. His chin has been pretty solid, and it is holding up. He has no issues whatsoever standing in the pocket and just taking one to give one. He has been training with Henry Cejudo for this camp, and I imagine it's to help his grappling as well, because he only has a 50% takedown defense, and Dominic Reyes, who's not a very good wrestler, had 0 issues taking down Jiri Prochazka. And right now, Jiri's sitting at a 2-1 favorite, and I totally understand why people like him so much in this fight, but I completely disagree. And yes, I am biased. You got that full disclosure ahead of time. But if you look at them at fighters and you look at their strengths, you look at their weaknesses, you look at their bodies of work, I just don't see Jiri as the winner. Anyone picking Jiri, you obviously think he knocks Glover out. That is literally his only path to victory is he's going to knock out Glover. Glover's 42 years old, and his chin's gone. But that was the exact same narrative against, for the Jan fight. And not only did Glover's chin not have any issues, but he dropped Jan in that fight. Everyone remembers it was a submission win, and even the UFC promos are only talking about Glover's grappling, but the dude has hands. He hits like a truck. He has 18 knockouts, not to mention the fact that he averages more than 2 takedowns per fight, and he has the record for most submission wins at light heavyweight. So yes, I am biased, but Glover has multiple paths to victory. He can knock out Jiri. It's impossible to assume that it's ridiculous to assume that he can't. He can absolutely take Jiri down. Dominic Reyes did it, no problem. So he has multiple paths to victory going into this battle. He's a battle-tested vet. I've got money line on Glover at plus 170. I think he gets it done, but obviously, Jiri Prochazka has the power, the unorthodox striking, the youth, the speed. Glover's not the fastest. Jiri Prochazka can get this done, but I think the line is disrespectful. Dude has 2 fights in the UFC, been taken down, no problem. Glover Teixeira's taken everybody down and has hands. Glover Teixeira is absolutely my pick. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, let me just start off with saying I am not biased. I don't know Glover, unfortunately, but I do love Glover. I mean, how can you – who does not love Glover? The guy seems like the greatest dude in the world. You watch all the countdowns, the embeddeds, everything. He's wrestling around with I just said his name. My brain's going crazy now. Mike Brown. Matt Brown. Yeah, was grappling around with him. Listen, if you are in the comments, if you are thinking in your mind, oh, Glover has no shot. There's no way Glover's win. You are an absolute clown. You have no idea. You are a casual if you think that Glover has no shot in this match, because the path to victory is very, very clear. If he can get his hands on Jiri, he will take him down and he will probably submit him. If he isn't able to get his hands on Jiri, as Angel mentioned, he has real power. I don't think he's going to flatline KO him, but he could easily hurt him into a situation where he could get his hands on him, and then the submission is there. You saw Dominic Reyes gave Jiri everything he had, and obviously Jiri, his chin held up. But there was a one exchange where Jiri was running away from Dominic Reyes because he got hurt. He was hurt, and that's Dominic Reyes. Glover is more powerful than Dominic Reyes. And even when Dominic Reyes was on his back, he hit Jiri with an up kick that was a flash knockout. He knocked out Jiri. He didn't realize he did it, but it was a boom. And then as he hit Reyes, he woke back up, and he was in a good position after he went straight to full mount. But Jiri can get hit. He is not this world beater, invincible guy that people think that, like, I think that people compare him, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Angelo, was people see him as like this Hamzat guy where he's just like invincible. Nobody can touch him. You're not going to knock out Jiri. He gets hit, and he got hurt in his last fight. And if Glover hits him, he could be in trouble. With that said, Angelo, if this was Dominic Reyes, I think Glover absolutely runs through Dominic Reyes because it's a little bit more of an orthodox type guy. Glover knows where the shots are coming from. The high guard works. He can still take down a Dominic Reyes and control him on the ground. I put submission. You can get submission bets on Glover right now for plus 1,000. Glover by submission is plus 350. If you go to the rounds, I put round 1, round 2 submission bets on Glover as plus 1,100, plus 1,400 for submission bets for Glover, because I think that if he's able to either take him down, he can submit him very easily, or if he hurts him, then he can get the takedown and submit him. I don't see him just flatline KOing Jiri. I hope he does. I'm going to be rooting for Glover. I mean, I'm absolutely rooting for Glover. No offense against Jiri, but it's just how unorthodox that Jiri is. I think that's where Glover's going to have issues. The shots that are coming at such weird angles with the weird footwork, I think that Glover is going to struggle with that unorthodox style, and the strikes are going to be there, unfortunately. I absolutely hope that I am wrong. I hope that Glover comes out and shows that he's still the guy that he was able to show off in the Jan fight. Shows the power, shows that he can take a shot. Let me eat a shot, give back a shot, get the takedown, submit this guy, and still the champion. In the embeddeds, Glover looks fantastic. He looks fast. I mean, watch him hit pads. He looks fast. He looks great. I just think the unorthodox style and the weird angles from those strikes are going to give him a little bit of an issue. So we've seen Glover have chin issues in the past. It seems like he's kind of shored those up lately. I hope and pray that he does in this matchup. I want Glover to win, but unfortunately, I'm going to pick Jiri in this matchup.
Listen, I'm not going to. I outlined very clearly why I think Glover wins. Very clear paths for both of these men. I just think, battle-tested vet that has been in there with some of the best on the planet over the last 15 years over this young, surging up-and-comer. The best thing that could ever happen to Jiri is probably losing this fight, honestly. Go back, plug up holes, and see what happens. So we'll see. We're on opposite sides of this, but Glover will be in my DraftKings lineup, $7,300, and he's that live for a stoppage because takedown submission is very, very possible. $8,900. If you think Jiri knocks out Glover Teixeira, then he obviously should be in your lineup.
This is definitely one of those. Yeah, I have Jiri in my lineup. This is definitely one of those pick your side and put them in your lineup because the over/under for this is only 1.5 rounds for a 5-round title fight. I have the submission wins or the submission bets for Glover round 2. I also have KO TKO bets for Jiri round 1, round 2. So I think it's over inside of 2.
Nope, absolutely. Pick your side, go for it. Monkey Knife Fight strike line, less for sure. But don't even worry about the strike line. Monkey Knife Fight has something called Knockout Kings. You pick any 3 fighters to win by KO or TKO, and you can win money. You pick any 3. Both of these guys, you can double it up. They should be in there. Glover could absolutely get the takedown TKO. Jiri, I don't want to say it out loud. And then throw in Manel, Kape, or Della Bagarai, somebody like that, and you will guaranteed cash. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Sign up, make a deposit. They will instantly match it. And if you want $50 for free, all you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. You sign up, you make a deposit, and I send you $50 as a thank you.
And everyone, right now, before you leave, please like the stream. We have 100 and some people in here. Like the stream. If you guys are new, you like the content, please subscribe. Become a member if you really like it. And we're excited about this card, man. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good card.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you Saturday before the fights.